In this lesson, I want to show you how to export your videos from After Effects using Adobe Media Encoder, which gives you some extra options for your export. So choose the composition, set your composition in and out points, your work area, and then go up to Composition, Add to Adobe Media Encoder Queue. And the reason why you might want to do this is because since it's a separate application, it can be running at the same time as After Effects. So if you need to continue working in After Effects on your project, say another composition you're working on, you can do that while your project is exporting from Adobe Media Encoder. When you're rendering out from the render queue of After Effects, like we learned previously, it shuts down After Effects. You can't do anything until that's done. And sometimes when you're creating these really complicated graphics that take minutes or even up to hours to export, you might not want to waste your time. So that's why you would export using Adobe Media Encoder. So once I click that, it takes a little while, but it will open up the Media Encoder. So here there's a couple windows that you should pay attention to. The project or the composition that you bring in comes in right here. And it will probably bring in the settings that you used the last time for your export. But to change your settings, you can either use a preset, which you can choose one from your preset browser. And this is another benefit of using Adobe Media Encoder because there's all sorts of other presets that you don't have within After Effects. So there's an entire web video folder. And so if you want a perfect video that's going to work well on YouTube, you can choose one of these presets. And to actually use that, just click and drag it on top of the composition right here, and it changes those settings. Or you can choose your settings yourself. With this drop-down menu on the left, you can choose the media format. Over here in the middle, again, you have your presets, or to customize it, you can click on this setting right here, and it will open up the traditional export settings window of Adobe Media Encoder. So over on the right-hand side, there's a lot. You've got your format at the top. You've got your preset again. You can choose the name and the folder where you're going to output it here. You can choose whether to export video and audio or just video or just audio. And then down below, here's where you change your settings, kind of like we did with the render queue. Here's where you can change the format. I'm using the H.264 setting. You can click the match source button to just match your source settings. So the frame size, the frame rate, etc. Or you can change this if you want to resize or change anything. If this is on another setting, say QuickTime, then under here you have video codec options. So here's another option where you can find H.264, but you also get your ProRes, your TIFF sequence, your animation, all of those other options too. So I'm just going to use that H.264 format though. Here's where you can change your bitrate settings here, which gives you both your target and maximum bitrate. And the cool thing about using this export settings module is you can see the estimated file size. And to decrease the file size, one of the easiest ways to do that is by decreasing the target bitrate. The max bitrate is, it just won't go over that bitrate no matter what. The target is where it tries to stay around. And the bitrate is basically how much information per second is included in your file. I typically like to check the render at maximum depth and use maximum render quality options right there to make sure it's the maximum quality. Then click OK. And then just click this Start Render Queue right here, or Start Queue. And it will pop open right here. It will start rendering. And then like I said, we can go back here. We can start working on another project while it's rendering, and we're good to go. Once it's done, just click the output file, and it will open up that folder where it exported. And here we have our lower third. Now this wasn't rendered with a transparent background, so you'll have to use the same settings as we did in the other lesson with the transparent background. But that's how you export with the Adobe Media Encoder. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in another lesson.